Hello and welcome to the Asian and Caucasian Show. I'm Matt, and after living in Vietnam for over 6 months and traveling back and forth between Vietnam and America, I think it's been about 8 times now over the past 10 years, I've learned a lot about the Vietnamese culture and a lot about Vietnam, and I know a lot of the things that you should do. But maybe more importantly, I know things that you shouldn't do. So here are 5 things that you should never do if you're traveling to Vietnam. Number one is something that maybe your mom has told you before, and that is that you should never cross the road without paying attention. So I know that a lot of us have heard that throughout the years when we're younger, like never cross the road without paying attention. But it's easy when you're in America to cross the road without paying attention a lot of the times because you can see the light change in the crosswalk and maybe you'll give a left or right look, but you can pretty much just walk and know that nobody's gonna hit you, or most of the time nobody's gonna hit you if you're crossing the road with the light in a crosswalk. In Vietnam, it's kind of like a wild, wild west scenario when people are driving. Even if you're walking in a crosswalk, there's often times that you need to pay attention because maybe a moped is going to turn into you or at least turn in front of you. There is definitely not a set standard of rules when you're crossing the street, or rather, there's not a set standard of rules that everybody obeys. So if you're crossing the street in Vietnam, it doesn't matter if you got the light, you better be looking right to left often and do what your mama always told you, pay attention when you're crossing the road. Number two is something that I doubt any other do not do list will have about Vietnam, and that is to refer to any woman, or at least any reasonably young woman, as ba. So for a long time I've been trying to learn Vietnamese and I've picked up some on the language, but a problem that I've had is a lot of the different apps that we have here in America to learn Vietnamese often maybe teach you a word that is technically correct, but it's not necessarily something that you should say. And ba is one of those things that referring to a woman like ma'am is something that basically no woman wants to hear in Vietnam unless they're like I said, way up there in age. They would think of that as being appropriate maybe. So if you were to say, for example, xin lỗi ba, which is basically excuse me ma'am, and something that is a turn of phrase that I would 100% use being from the South in America, I would be excuse me ma'am. I would say that to pretty much anyone of all ages and be very few people being like, I'm not a ma'am, but most of the time the way I would say it in the South, it would work out. But if you're in Vietnam and refer to a woman as a ma'am who is like the same age as you, then it's just definitely not a good thing to do. So my number two is not just to not say bye to a woman, but it's also just to more broadly pay attention to the different things that you may be learning on different language apps and things of that nature, because sometimes it may technically be correct, but it may not actually be the polite thing to say, depending on who you're speaking to and depending on the situation. So just be mindful of some of the things that you're learning because you're trying to study. Maybe they would forgive you because you're a foreigner trying to speak their language, but maybe not. So number 3 on the list is do not drink the tap water. So Vietnam is still a developing country, and as such, some places, depending on where you are, the tap water is not gonna be the same quality of tap water that you would find in the States. That being said, sometimes in the States, there's some chemicals that you shouldn't even drink the tap water. But even more pressingly, you can literally get sick drinking the tap water. And to broaden that out further, that kind of applies to ice at certain times and even the way things are cleaned on certain vegetables and lettuce. Make sure that you dry off certain things because there are things that maybe a local Vietnamese person's stomach is used to, but you as a foreigner, your stomach won't be used to it. The worst experience I ever had was food poisoning, and I got that and I actually had to stay all night in the hospital in Vung Tau, Vietnam. Now I think that was from some not properly cooked seafood, but it's possible that it could have just been from some bad water or bad ice that I got a hold of. So definitely pay attention to where you're getting your water and where you're getting your ice. Number 4 is never wear shoes into someone's home or living area of their home. Now, this is maybe not like a hard rule, but it's definitely more of a polite custom to take your shoes off when you're walking towards where somebody actually lives in their homes. Now, this can kind of be somewhat of a blurry line because, for example, in Vietnam, where I live in Vietnam, we have an actual restaurant underneath where I live. And when we're walking into the restaurant area, of course, everybody uses their shoes. But when we go up towards the living quarters where we live and where the family hangs out, then we do take off our shoes. It's not a hard, strict rule, and you're not going to necessarily get in trouble, but people will extremely appreciate the fact that you're mindful and take off your shoes. And usually there's a visual cue because you'll see outside of a door or outside an area, shoes side by side. Usually that gives you a visual cue of, hey, maybe I should take off my shoes here. Number 5 is also a little bit of how you dress here. And that is when you're going to a temple, be sure to dress appropriately. Now with men, they're a little more, I guess, lenient as far as like wearing shorts. You can wear general shorts to like your knees is fine. I think if you're wearing any kind of other shorts, maybe like shorter shorts, even for guys, they would say, hey, maybe don't do that. Or if you're wearing like a tank top, they would probably be like, hey, don't wear like a kind of a tank top type shirt, or I don't know, is it a tank top? Like a muscle shirt? I don't know. But in general, if you're wearing like a basic t-shirt and regular shorts, that's fine. But if you're a female and you're wearing any kind of like shorts pretty much at all, or even a short dress or showing your shoulders, which is more common like in a dress in general, then they're gonna want you to cover up. If you're gonna go see a temple, a lot of times there's even people outside that will sell you like a shawl or something that you could put over, or something to wrap around your waist and cover your legs. And that is just something that maybe take into consideration, because it can be something that is slightly annoying maybe for somebody who's like a visitor, because you're like, oh wow, I wanted to come see this amazing location, but now I can't because I'm not dressed appropriately. So it may be like a mild annoyance for you as a traveler. For them, this is like a holy place, and is their life, it's their culture, it's their beliefs, and this is their home that you are visiting. So even if it's a minor annoyance or inconvenience to you, to them it's a much bigger deal, and it's something that you should respect while you're there. That's just my list of 5 things that I think you should not do in Vietnam. Drop in the comment section below and let me know, have you traveled to Vietnam? Have you had some experience with the culture, or maybe are you Vietnamese yourself? Drop in the comment section below and let us all know what are some of the things that you think that we should know about Vietnam, and some of the things that we should do, and some of the things that we definitely shouldn't do. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.